Have you ever wondered how exceptional service can be a catalyst for business growth? In today's episode, we'll uncover strategies and tips on how prioritizing service can propel your business to new heights. Stay tuned as we dive into the secrets of using service to drive growth. Hi, I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing, where we believe you must remove your revenue roadblocks if you want to accelerate growth, and marketing shouldn't be difficult. Thanks for taking the time to tune in. I'm super excited to have David from Helped with me today. David, welcome and thanks for being here.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to dig into this. As you know, when we connected prior to the show today, we as we started to talk, we started to realize like how many similarities there are between marketing strategy and service delivery strategy. And so I'm excited to jump into this because I think this is something that a lot of people overlook. But before we do that, I want to ask you a few rapid fire questions, help us get to know you. You ready to jump in with both feet?
I think I'm ready.
Okay. When you're not working, how do you like to spend your time?
Reading. Love reading. I never did it when I was younger. Realized what I was missing out on, and now I do it all the time. Uh, I'd say book
Uh,
or two.
fiction, nonfiction, what
Uh,
all the above?
Fiction. Anything that I was supposed to read in high school, that goes first. Just got done reading Picture of Dorian Gray, The Giver, things that were assigned reading that I totally didn't read. That's first, and then anything that's recommended to me is second.
Okay, cool. I love it. So you're a voracious reader.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Do you speed read or
No, I take my time. I
you
enjoy
do?
it. Yeah, I absolutely want to get the context. I want to understand what's happening,
Yeah.
and also I want my mind to kind of enter that Zen state of reading and being in a different world. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm here
Cool.
for.
Man, I
Mhm.
love it. What's your hidden talent?
I tried this one time at I think it was like a elementary school talent show. I can wiggle my ears, but independently of each other. The problem was when I tried this at that talent show, I was brought to the front of an auditorium, and everybody said, "David, go! What's your hidden talent?" And I turned my head and I started wiggling my ears. Nobody could see it because we were in this auditorium, but maybe
Ah,
here with my earbud
I can
in,
I
you
can
could
see
see
it a
it.
little bit. Yeah, I can see it a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is a crazy weird talent. Yeah, okay,
Right?
so this is I'm going off the path here a little bit, but we're talking about the head area. My
Yeah.
oldest daughter can stick her tongue out and flip it around like this. It is the
Wow.
strangest thing I've ever seen, and it is a crazy hidden talent. But it's like, how do
Wow.
you do that? You know,
And yeah,
it's
isn't there
such
a
a
little
trip.
thing that's supposed to
Yeah,
that's
I have
crazy.
no idea. It is the craziest thing ever. But I've never met anybody that can wiggle their ears independently. So
Yeah,
that's cool.
go on.
I like it.
Thank you.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I had somebody tell me that nobody will look after your career except for you, and I thought that that was amazing. That's, my buddy Ray, if he ever watches this, we were complaining about work, and he said, "Listen, David, nobody's gonna look after your career except for you." And, I thought that was empowering. I thought that was something that almost everybody needs to hear at all levels of their career.
It's you could apply that and just say like nobody's going to look after your life except for you,
Right?
right? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
no matter what's happening in our lives, the world keeps spinning, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Um, what's one thing about you that surprises people other than the fact that you can wiggle your ears independently?
That's usually the icebreaker,
That's
you
usually
walk
it.
up, "Hey, look at my ears." I'm tall, I'm not super tall, but I'm tall, and I think that that throws people off sometimes. I'm about 6'1", when I'm wearing shoes, I'm a little taller than that. Not massive, but, when I talk to people, I think I'm not super imposing, and so they think, "Hey, maybe David's gonna be a little bit shorter of a guy," and so I think that throws them off for sure.
Yeah. It's always interesting too, like meeting people on Zoom and then meeting them
Mhm,
for the first time in
mhm.
person. That just happened to me with somebody that I had connected with on Zoom like 2, 3 times, had a lot of communications back and forth and met her face to face for the first time. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a context thing too, right? Like
Yeah.
in your mind, you're building this little world and this thing that they live in that's on the screen. And then you see
Yes.
them in person, it's like, wow, totally different
Y-
experience.
That's right.
Yeah.
It totally is. What does success mean to you?
Oh, time. Success means time. The harder I work at what we're doing here, the more I'm trying to align myself so that I have more time to, spend with family and friends and enjoy myself. So I think success equals time.
Where's your happy place?
The beach, the beach. We're about 15 minutes away from the beach now. Uh, the funny part about that is that my happy place is the beach at night. A lot of people like the beach during the day, sun's out, enjoy the weather. But I just love that feeling of it being dark, looking out, seeing the ocean, maybe a couple lights out there. So the beach at dark.
Kind of brings in your hearing senses a lot,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
interesting idea. Because what you're in Southern California, right?
That's right. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. What beach are you close to?
So we're right off of Laguna Canyon Road. So if I were to just go straight, I'd hit Laguna Beach.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
What qualities do you value in the people you spend time with?
Transparency and consistency. I am definitely the type of person that will say too much about something just in the name of being honest. And I'm also the type of person that really likes, a plan or to live up to expectations. And so, as long as the communication is there, I want that consistency, so I know it's going to happen, so that I can start to, plan around it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So, David, tell us a little bit more about what you're doing at Helped.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the last gigs that I worked at, we were servicing these massive, multi-billion-dollar companies that were seeking these insane SLAs. And so, as somebody that was running the support organization, I was trying always to figure out a way to satisfy those requirements. And after time, I realized that it would be impossible to do with my team. And so I went out and tried to find some partners that could help me with it. And when I continued to struggle with that, I realized that this is what the world needs, frankly. And so Help has been built as a help desk or a service desk force multiplier. Our goal is to be able to bridge the gap, to be able to plug in as if we're a part of the team of the client that we're serving, and be able to really deflect a lot of the stuff from them, and also provide that 24/7 coverage, or just be there when their customers are expecting them to be there.
Cool. And what are your support people US based, overseas? What's that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a funny one, but everybody's US based, everybody's US born. We believe that expertise lives everywhere, but when there's something that's going on where maybe you're a little bit stressed out about an issue that you're experiencing, it's really nice to be able to have a language and a cultural match with the person that you're talking with, and
Yeah.
so that's why we focus on that US based support personnel.
Cool. So anybody that needs a help or service desk of some kind,
Mhm.
you guys can help. You're working a lot with that managed service providers, but any
Yeah.
organization that has a need for that, you guys can help.
Exactly, exactly. It started as we were both executives at a company that sold widgets, and we realized that this is where it began. And then when we opened this offering out up to the market, we started to see a lot of MSPs that said, "Hey, I really need this type of bridge." They're constantly working in an interruptive state, and they wanted to break their habit of doing that. And so being able to just plug in, be the front line, take as many of the issues off their shoulders as possible, it really allowed us to blossom in this MSP space. The reality, and I know this is terrible for marketing, Tim, I'm sorry. The reality is that our ideal client is literally anybody that needs to bridge that gap.
Yeah. And how do you guys price? Like, is it priced per attendant? Is it priced per minute, per hour? What does that look like?
That's exactly right. It's per minute.
Okay.
So our focus there was to be able to be granular. Somebody calls in and says, "Hey, I've got an issue with my computer," and then moments later they say, "Oh, wait, it stopped happening." We didn't want that to be a per ticket cost. We didn't want that to be a per user cost. We didn't want that to be like anybody else that's offering similar services, we wanted it to be purely consumption based.
Yeah.
So that was a
Cool.
big difference.
Cool. So clients are only paying for what they need and use.
Exactly. Mhm.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about service delivery, man.
Yeah,
How are marketing strategy and service delivery strategy aligned?
yeah, that's a that's a good question. So I think that I can spout off idioms and sayings about how there's no way to make a second first impression. But I think that as we think about how we interact on the service side, it's incredibly important to be professional, be courteous, be consistent, be transparent, be all of those things that I think that a good marketing strategy aligns with as well. Um, that's kind of your side of things. So tell me if I'm on track there. Do you see that same kind of parallel?
Yeah, I think so. When I think of the customer journey, I think of marketing on the front end, then you have sales, and then you have, service delivery, customer
Mhm,
service, right? They're intertwined there. But the marketing, the message needs to be the same from marketing to sales
mhm,
to service
mhm,
delivery. Um, and so there needs to be alignment there. There should be alignment.
mhm,
Um, I also think that they can play off of each other, right? Like the data that you gather within service delivery
mhm.
can be used to help fuel sales and marketing efforts, right? Because you are
Absolutely.
capturing conversations and interactions with
Mhm,
clients that can be
mhm.
really, really important in supporting sales and marketing efforts. So
Absolutely. Feedback loop.
that's where I see that alignment,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
And I think we're gonna talk about that a little bit, but you know, um, what are they saying at service
mhm,
delivery, right? What kinds of
mhm.
problems, roadblocks, pain points are coming up
Yeah,
that you are solving for the client? That's information that can help sales and marketing, right?
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
now from a service delivery standpoint, you can if you solve something
Mhm,
quickly,
mhm.
that's a great opportunity to get a testimonial, get a review, get a referral, right? And that's where there's alignment, I think, with marketing and sales as well.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. I think that I might have thought in my mind of like you said, the customer journey and this concept of there being um, the entire picture that starts, like you said, with marketing, goes to service delivery. And earlier on, I didn't do it on purpose, I promise, but I said that I like transparency and consistency. And so if you're out there marketing something that is this stellar service or this stellar product or this whatever, and the customer comes in and is sold on that, and then the first couple of interactions that they have with the service team doesn't align with what they've been sold,
Right.
they're going to get frustrated and upset. And,
Yeah.
we want the feedback loop, but we don't want somebody to say, you know what, I saw your ad or I saw your thing and you told me it was going to be this way and it wasn't. So I think
Right.
that it has to be consistent. Yeah, I like that.
Absolutely. Right. We can't overpromise with our marketing efforts and then under deliver on the service side,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
frankly, marketing as a whole has a name for that, right? Overpromising, oh, we're going to do X, and
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
then it never happens, right? And so we always we want to make promises that we can keep, right? And promises that are simple. I believe, and that promise we're making with from marketing to sales, we need to be able to deliver on that on the service side.
Mhm.
And if we can't,
Mhm.
we're going to have problems, right? That is also then going to impact retention, right?
Mhm.
Referrals,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
I again see as part of the marketing process. So it's like, man, the more we just kind of talk about this, it's like they need to be aligned, but they're intertwined.
Because you need the net promoters, right? If you were
Yeah.
to say to somebody, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna walk up to you and I'm gonna kick you in the shin, and that's what I'm gonna do. No matter what, I'm gonna walk up to you and I'm gonna kick you in the shin, and this is the marketing." And they say, "Yeah, of course, I'll take that. I would love that." And then we walk up to them and slap them in the arm. It's gonna be a completely different experience, and they're gonna say to themselves, "Hey, wait a minute, I was, sold a bill of goods. This is completely different than what I expected." And the next time somebody says, "Hey, I need a guy to come and kick me in the shin," and they're thinking about that experience that they had with all they wanted was somebody to kick them in the shin, but they got somebody that slapped them in the arm. They're not going to promote you. They're not going to say, "Hey, you should go to the my favorite shin kicker." I feel like that kind of went off the rails a little bit, but hopefully that made sense.
No, it makes perfect sense because service delivery is where we either gain proof, right, that we've
Mhm,
done what we said we were going to do, or we lose it.
mhm,
And proof within our marketing that we can actually do what we say we're going to do is absolutely imperative to our
mhm,
success long term. So if we're making promises again on the marketing side that we're not upholding, we're losing the ability to prove that we do what we say we're going to do,
exactly.
which is going to impact our marketing, which is then going to impact our sales and our ability to generate revenue and profits.
Absolutely.
So,
I think
um,
that's what we're all here for, right?
yes, yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, hey, look, if we don't make money and profit, we can't serve people at the highest level. So, I mean,
Exactly.
there's nothing wrong with making money. We need to make money.
Mhm.
So, so when we, David, when we look at service excellence, right? What are some of the keys to growing a business through service excellence? What do we need to think about?
I think that one of the things that I always think about just in life is, keeping it simple, but also keeping it. A lot of people say, "Hey, let's make this the simplest thing. Let's make it efficient. Let's make it this and that." But I think what we really need to do is continue to measure. We have to keep that information. Tim, you mentioned the data and the sounded like referrals and feedback and things like that earlier. We need to keep all of that data, and I think that's the only way that we can continue to grow our service capabilities is through continuous improvement based on the data that we've been able to capture and
Yeah,
collect. Not just CSAT, but agent sentiment is one of the things that we do a lot of. A customer can come in and say, "Hey, I had this or that experience," but we also want to capture how our agents feel about the call, and because then that kind of allows us to align the issue, the solution, and the sentiment and say, all right, well, the issue is resolved, but we need to improve our service delivery. We need to improve because, the customer didn't feel good. Or, hey, you know what, the customer was a little bit upset. What else was it that might have happened in that experience? And so keeping all of that, data driven improvement,
yeah.
that's what we're here for. Uh, I've got one for you. I'm sorry, this is super cheesy, but what's the biggest room in the world?
Oh, geez, I don't know.
It's the room for improvement. And
Okay,
so I think that when it comes to service, it'll never be perfect, but as long as you're constantly striving to improve, that's what we're after. But if you don't know what you've done before, you can't improve on that. And so keeping it, keeping all the data, keeping all the analytics, keeping all the sentiment, keeping as much as you possibly can to review it later and improve upon that means incremental improvement, means better and better. I
okay.
went a little
I love
rambly
this.
on
You
that. Sorry.
David. You just keep throwing me softballs because we're getting more parallels between service and marketing here, right? I love the fact that you talk about keeping it simple because I say that over and over again with marketing. Like it's so easy to overcomplicate things, and
Mhm,
complicating things gets in the way of results in everything we do. So I love that. We always talk about measuring data, right? If we don't have data, we can't make good decisions with
mhm,
marketing. Same on the service side, right? We've got to measure it so that we
yep,
can then constantly improve, right? And that's what, with marketing, we're always talking about we're testing, we're measuring, and we're learning. And then
mhm,
we iterate on it and we just do the same loop over and over again. You're never done. And that's what you're talking about here. Like, look, marketing is never perfect. There's always room for improvement, but if we don't test, measure, and learn, we can't improve. Same thing on the service side, right? We've
Mhm.
got to, you're not, I mean, you can test things, right? You can say, hey, let's try this to see if it improves our service delivery. So you test it, you measure it, you learn from it, and then you make adjustments and course corrections. And so it's like we're never done.
That's right. And one of the funny things about both of these fields is the fact that people are experiencing it on a regular basis. It's pervasive in our lives. You know, we're getting service delivered to us every moment of the day, basically. We've got internet on our computer that could go out. We go to stand in line at the Starbucks and we're getting service provided to us. Same thing with marketing. And I know this is going to be a weird parallel, but same thing with marketing. You know, you're constantly looking at, when I turn my TV on, my Fire TV pops up and I get a Carl's Jr. ad, you know, something silly like that. I wonder why it's a Carl's Jr. ad. I wonder if that's Target.
Yeah.
So, so we're constantly experiencing this. And so everybody that has been a party to that has been a part of the improvement that has happened over the however many years that these things have been going on, which is
Yeah.
forever almost. And so it's all of us, right? You know, if somebody likes a service thing, then it's going to be the thing that's going to be measured and learned upon, and then it's going to be that better next time. If somebody likes something in marketing, it's measured and learned upon. They're going to, you know, say, hey, let's make that better next time. So we're all evolving, you know,
Yeah.
all of us.
Well, too, as we talk about this, David, it makes me think about we all have experiences like this. Like, think about the last time that you had a really poor service experience. It,
Mhm,
like, all the work that that company did on the front end
mhm,
to market to
mhm,
you, to
mhm.
sell and bring you on as a client or a customer, to just blow it in the sales experience, in the service
Good
experience,
service, yeah.
is really bad. Like,
Yeah.
I have two that I'm thinking of right now. um, I worked with a tree company that came out. They came out. They did some tree trimming in the fall, and they were supposed to come out and do some additional, deep root watering and that kind of stuff in the spring, and some
Mhm.
treatment. Dude, David, I haven't heard from them since they did the last treatment. I have no idea
Oh,
what the
no.
hell they're doing. Right?
Yeah.
I honestly think that they forgot. Like, that's
Mhm.
really bad. Um,
Yeah.
I also had an experience recently with my power company. They were trying to get a hold of me. It was an auto dial call where they called me, and instead of an agent actually being there when I picked it up, it told me that I needed to call them back.
Oh.
Take a guess what happened when I called them back. It was a
Uh,
freaking 30+ minute wait.
yeah.
That is horrible
Mhm,
service delivery.
mhm, mhm. Yeah.
Now, with the
Wait.
power company, I don't have much choice, right? Like, I
That's
can't
right.
go to another power company unless I freaking move
That's right.
somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
Um, but if we are in a business where they have choice,
Mhm.
not good, right?
It's exactly it, and, I mean, I know that this is what this call is about. In the managed service provider space, there are so many different options. There's so many different folks that are out there that are saying they're better than this, they're better than that, which is all marketing, which is good. We wanna be able to prove that we're better, but when it comes to the service, it has to live up to what you're saying, or else they're gonna go find the next guy down the road, next person down the road. So I think it's your two examples came down to expectations, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that. You know, if the tree trimming people or the tree folks would have said, "Hey, we're going to call you back in 3 months," and then they didn't, they broke their promise.
Yeah.
With the power company or the utilities company, they said, "Hey, we're going to call you back," and they did, but it was, you know, an automated thing, and then you had to call back. They broke their promise. That one was a little bit more implied. You know,
Yeah.
did they say, "Hey, an agent's going to call you back," or did they say, "We'll call you back to schedule something"? You
Yeah.
know, when you think about a callback, you're assuming an agent. Not sure if they said it was an agent or not, but just that small little level of maybe miscommunication, maybe an expectation that you set, maybe some promise that you were expecting to have been made, and then it not happening.
Yeah.
It's enough for you to say, dang, let me go to somebody else. Let me go try some other option. Uh, Power, utilities, you're right, that's tough.
Yeah.
Everything else, not as tough. We live in a world of abundance these days. You can
No.
pick up the, I was going to say phone book, geez. You can go on Google and
Yeah.
find the next tree, folks. So, yeah.
Well, and if you think about like the managed service provider space, like
Mhm,
I got a computer problem. Like I don't want to be sitting here waiting for an
mhm,
hour or 2 hours. It's like
mhm.
when I pick up the phone and call, I actually want to speak to somebody,
Yes.
right? Because if
Yeah,
I
talk
don't
about
speak
softball.
to somebody, then I'm sitting
Mhm,
there wondering, like, how long am I going to be sitting here dead in the water?
mhm. And one of my favorite things to talk about is the anatomy of that issue. And you're kind of speaking to it right now. This idea that when you get to a point where you're seeking help, you're already more than likely frustrated. You've
Yes.
already probably spent 5 to 10 minutes trying to figure it out yourself. And then you get to the place where you're like, all right, let me get some help from somebody. And you call or you send a ticket in or something like that. And if you don't get a response almost immediately, you're going to think, well, what am I doing with these people? Why do I pay them for this type of service if they're not going to be there for me when I've determined that I need them?
Yeah. Yeah. Our minds start running, right?
Hmm. Oh, yeah.
We're left to our own devices and we just go off. And that is not a place that we as a service provider want our clients to go.
Exactly. One of the things that we do, and I know this is kind of speaking a little bit more to help, is we tell our clients what our SLOs are, our service level objectives are. And then we try to ask them what theirs are. Because sometimes, and this is going to sound kind of crazy, ours are much better than theirs. And so we want to make sure, right? We want to make sure that we're aligned with them. So if they sign a contract with a client of theirs that, they've done marketing and they've put the effort around selling this idea that they're going to call back within an hour, or they're going to take care of that ticket within an hour, or they're going to do something within some amount of time, and we're half or a quarter of that amount of time, then they're going to start expecting it to be half or a quarter amount of that time, even though everything was agreed upon, the expectations were set contractually based
Yeah.
on a different number. And so it's a give a mouse a cookie. That's one of my
Yeah.
favorite things.
Yeah.
You tell somebody it's going to take an hour, but every time they call in, it takes 30 minutes. Or I guess call in's a weird one. Every time they send a ticket and it takes 30 minutes, they're going to start expecting it to be 30 minutes. And then that
Yeah.
one time that it's 45 minutes, doesn't matter that you said it was going to be less than an hour. It's the fact that it's more than 30 minutes. And every time it was 30 minutes before that.
Yeah. Well, and this kind of also goes back to your point about measuring data. If we
Mm,
measure data within service delivery, those are numbers that if we've measured it accurately and we feel confident in it, we can then use that in our sales and marketing efforts to
oh,
make
yeah,
promises, right? And help
absolutely.
differentiate our business from somebody else's, right? Because if you measure the data and all your tickets are being solved within 30 minutes or an hour, like that's a promise you can start to make. And
Mm,
if you've got good data, a lot of people who don't have good data are going to be uncomfortable making a promise like that. But if you've got the right
mhm,
data, you can say, no, like, here it is. Like, and then you can make the promise. Now you start to differentiate, and that's going to help grow your business as well.
absolutely.
So,
It,
okay. So we touched on this a little bit. I want to dig a
mm,
little bit deeper into this.
mm,
What are
mhm.
some of the ways that we can capitalize on a good service delivery experience, on good service experience?
I have a story. This is kind of folklore. It's the Bernie story. And the Bernie story goes that we had this person at the last gig who wasn't really technical, but they were the friendliest person in the world. It didn't matter what happened. If somebody called in with an issue, if somebody spent those 5 to 10 minutes leading up to calling in, being frustrated and angry about something not working, called our service desk and got a hold of Bernie, by the time they were done with the call with Bernie, they were customers for life because they were able to get somebody immediately to solve their issue or to at least begin starting to solve their issue, just acknowledge that they had an issue. Maybe it wasn't even resolved at all, but having somebody that was there, that they could count on, that they could have their expectations set by the company that they're expecting them to be set by, as opposed to the thing you said earlier about it just kind of running away in our minds,
Yeah.
knowing what it's going to be, and then not breaking those commitments or those promises, that means that that customer is going to say, you know what? Their support is awesome. I called in, I had an issue. I don't even care about the issue. I care about the fact that I was greeted by somebody that was super professional, competent, courteous, whatever it was. They told me exactly what was going to happen next. And lo and behold, exactly what they told me was going to happen happened. And so every one of my expectations were met. That's good in my mind. That's good in my mind. So, when I go to McDonald's or Carl's Jr., I guess,
Yeah.
I wonder if I should get a royalty for that. Um, I expect to be in and out in 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
If it's ever longer than 10 minutes, I'm frustrated. Nobody's ever told me that it's going to be 10 minutes, but my expectations are always met. If somebody were to tell me it's going to be 30 minutes that day because something's happening in the back and it was less than 30 minutes, expectations met. That's a good service experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So how to
No,
capitalize?
that's no, I love that because I want to pull something out that I think is easy for people to overlook. In Bernie's calls in the very beginning, once he understands what the problem is, he's communicating to the client, here are the steps that we're going to take to resolve this,
Mhm,
right? So
mhm,
this unknown, not for the client, now becomes okay, like I don't understand all this crap, but I know exactly what steps are going to take. I know what to expect. That also helps diffuse the situation,
mhm,
right? It brings a comfort level to the client of
mhm,
okay, I know what to expect. Like I know there's things beyond my control. I know there's things beyond their control, but I know what they are going to do to attempt to resolve this as quickly as possible.
I'm going to try this on for size. I've never really said this or verbalized this before, so bear with me. But the idea that we're living in a very technically competent age, people know what they're doing when they're on their computer, and they call in because they've got an issue. When they call in, they're maybe not expecting to get a resolution immediately, especially considering that they think that they're capable enough to have figured it out themselves. And so all they're calling in for is to get to that resolution. Whatever path that's going to take, they need help defining it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 10 minutes, it's no big deal. Bernie was able to hop on the computer and fix it. Maybe it's, hey, a system-wide outage. We were able to find that out. It's going to be at least 3 to 4 hours until it comes back online. Maybe it's, oh my gosh, this is some sort of real problem that's going on. We're going to need to be reactive to this and spend a lot of time to fix it. But all of that just reinforces that idea that in their minds, this was a really tough thing. And all they wanted to do was figure out how to get to resolution. Whether they got it immediately or not, doesn't matter anymore. It's just the fact that they got a hold of somebody, they got the commitments, and now they're able to measure against them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, David, we touched on this a little bit earlier too. When you provide a good service experience, it is an
Mhm,
amazing opportunity to ask for
mhm,
testimonials, reviews, get case studies. You touched on NPS, Net Promoter Score,
mhm,
surveys, right? Gathering that data that we can
mhm,
then use to make better business decisions.
mhm,
Man, when you solve support issues quickly, to the client satisfaction,
mhm,
there are all kinds of opportunities for low hanging fruit like that
mhm,
that a lot of businesses overlook.
mhm. Absolutely. I'm thinking about all of the different CSAT companies that are out there these days that, send that request for a survey at the end of the call. Um, and I'm not against that idea, but I also don't want it to appear like that's the only reason why that's being sent, or that's the only reason why the service is excellent is because we're being measured on it.
Yeah,
I love, and I know it's kind of getting esoteric. I love this idea of being able to do without expecting something back.
yeah,
And a lot of the times when we have these experiences with customers that the sentiment kind of goes awry and they're frustrated and they go onto our Yelp or whatever and they throw in something that says, hey, this was a really terrible experience. I think that kind of takes away and it almost pushes forward this idea that we're only ever going to hear that. If instead what you're saying is, survey people agnostically, I'm all for that. I like that idea of saying, it either goes out with every single interaction or on a quarterly basis or on a weekly basis. We're going to send out this request for these surveys. and make it really easy for them to say, hey, this was a good experience.
Yeah.
I'm all about that. I feel like I kind of went a little sideways, but I hope that made sense.
No, I get it. Yeah, if you're gonna do it, you need to do it consistently, right? So
Right, right.
and frankly, it's you want to know whether you did a good job or a bad job. It's not that you're just reaching out because you did a good job,
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
right? We need to know about, honestly, doing it consistently helps you identify blind spots that you might have too, right? If you didn't do a good job and you're not told about it, you don't know about it. And
Right,
it's just sitting there under the surface and it's doing harm and not good. But we don't know
right,
about it. And
right,
when we don't know about it, we can't address it.
right.
So to me, it's about having a consistent process in place around your service delivery that helps drive better business outcomes. It helps drive
Mhm,
better business decisions, and it helps
mhm,
gather data that you can utilize throughout the entire company
mhm.
to grow.
Yeah, the feedback loop should be ever present.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Maybe we could rewind a couple minutes. It has to always be there so that we can continue to collect that information. Yep.
yeah, yeah. Kind of goes back to the whole test, measure, learn concept, where
Yeah,
like it's
absolutely.
a constant loop. David, this has been awesome, man. Any last minute thoughts you want to leave us with today?
I think that it's important to think about yourselves as customers and think about how you want to be treated. I know we're talking about the golden rule and these other things out there, um, but I think it's really important to consider what is a successful service experience to you. Consider also what's a successful sales cycle to you. We're all consumers of both service, marketing, sales type prospects. Things, this little thing popped up and threw me off. I think it's important to just realize that we're all in this together, and we're all going to evolve and improve over time.
Awesome. And where can people learn more about you?
So down there, gethelp.com is our website address. And then that number on there, 949-996-3257, that's our mainline number. I really wanted to make sure that that was present so that when somebody called that, they would get a human, they would get somebody to talk to, that you could find out a little bit more about help if you're interested, and really start to see the process that anybody who used us was like. Being there is more than half the battle, and that's what we really focus on.
Cool. So gethelped.com, and that's HELPT.com, or
Mhm.
reach out at 949-996-3257. Um, I hope you guys kind of got an idea from this conversation how David and the folks on his team really approach the help desks, service support. Reach out, because I think that there's a lot of leverage that people can gain by working with you, and hopefully they reach out based on this conversation. So please do that. David, thank you for taking the time. Those of you that are watching, listening, I appreciate you taking the time to do so as well. You can connect with us at rialtomarketing.com. We talked a lot today about how marketing strategy kind of aligns with service delivery. Um, Man, you gotta have a strategy in place. And if you want to know about which of the 9 revenue roadblocks are slowing down your growth, you can do that over at revenueroadblockscorecard.com. Takes less than 5 minutes. So that's another opportunity to get some assistance as well. So thank you again. Until next time, take care.